Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are giving you our top quarterback and tight end sleepers for the 2021 fantasy football season. We want to help you win your draft to win your league. Let's get this fantasy football podcast started right now.
Hey everyone, I am Justin, that is Kyle, and this is the Fantasy Football Upside. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Man, this week is one of my favorite weeks, Kyle. I know it's one of your favorites too. It's been our sleeper week so far. So this week we've given you running backs as well as wide receiver sleepers. We're going to put a little bow on it for this first installment. We're going to combine QBs and tight ends.
Yeah.
The reason why we combine it, it's not as easy trying to find sleepers in something that's usually one person that's in your starting lineup kind of thing. So it's a little more difficult, but I think we found some really good ones for you guys.
Oh, yeah,
what do you got before we get going, man?
Hey, make sure you hit that like button down below. That's what we're focused on this off season right now, at least. And hang around because I think we're gonna do like a draft month coming up where I think what we're gonna do, for those of you who are crazy enough to hang around, I think we're going to try to upload something every day in the month leading up to the draft week for most leagues. We'll
Hopefully
see.
Our
we'll
wives
see.
Hang around.
Yeah, I don't know. Not sure about that one. I'll have to run that by the esposa before I get in make any commitment, I suppose. Right.
Right.
But hey, let's dive in headfirst into the shallow end. And actually, you know what? I just want to say that if you do have a question, feel free to go ahead and drop it down below because, maybe you want to put that lifeline up and say, little help now. Yeah, we're here. We'll help you out. That's right.
It's going to be used quite a bit, everybody. Trust
us. It is.
It's going to be one of our favorites.
Yeah. So head first into the shallow end, and we're going full dad mode. That's what we're doing. Like right off the top, we're going QB full dad mode. That's it right there, gentlemen.
I mean, would you just look at that?
It's glorious.
Just look at it.
It's glorious.
What
that is Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's right.
That is,
he is
hashtag athleticism.
Yeah, ADP, 8th pick of the 14th round. 27th QB off the board. I don't really fully understand it. He should be a lot higher than that or higher rated than that. And I think that he needs to be off the board at least in 2 QB and Superflex leagues because the numbers he's likely to put up this year, I don't understand how anybody is sleeping on this guy, but everybody apparently is, right? I mean, I really don't get it. Because when you look at what he's done in the past and the weapons that they have in Washington, and it doesn't make any sense to me that he is being ignored. He has just thrown the ball at every team that he's ever been with. And then you add to it that, look, Washington threw the ball 601 times last season with 4 QBs taking turns slinging the rock, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got 4 guys again, right? You have definitely got 4 guys, except that you have one guy who's a clear starter, and that's Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's the only guy, I think, on that roster who's a clear starter. So he has a path to all the passes, and, I mean, he doesn't really get hurt. They do pull him eventually because they're like, this guy, he's going to do well for us. And then they're like, no, he didn't. So, it's like, let's try this. Oh, bad idea. And then they go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick eventually, right?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, right now, I think it's crazy. If he gets the call here, which there's no reason for him not to get the call, you could end up paying a very low amount of draft capital for a guy who's a borderline QB1, QB2 most of the season for you. And so if you're like us, you realize that there's not much difference truly for most of the QBs in value, relative value in fantasy football. And so Fitzpatrick's one of those guys. In his career, he's attempted this. This is something I really wanted to talk to you about. Look, in his career, he's only attempted more than 500 passes 2 times. That's it. Only 2 times. Now, that kind of blew my mind when I saw that, right? Those ended up being his best QB finishes. He finished QB 11 and QB 16 in those years. They were not back-to-back years. They were like 4 years apart or 3 years apart from one another.
He has been, he's been around since Nom.
He's a yeoman.
He's a little long in the tooth.
He's been around since our friend Aaron Rodgers.
You done messed up, Aaron.
Yeah, and so look, he's clearly a volume asset in fantasy football. I think that his historical statistics point that out, that as long as he's getting a high volume of pass opportunities, that he puts in results for you. And he's performed as a QB1 or a QB2 in those instances. This offense is going to do what he needs, which is throw the ball a whole lot. And he's got great targets to hit down the field. He's got running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's primed to just blow up here. I mean, I think, we were a little hot on Stafford last year, and then he just couldn't stay healthy. Right. I think Fitzpatrick is that guy this year, and he's even more underrated than Stafford was being last year.
I think you're right, man. You mentioned the weapons. I mean, I look at Terry McLaurin taking that next step. I look at them bringing in Curtis Samuel and paying them a lot of money. I mean, he's been around with Ron Rivera, even though, Ron's a defensive guy, but they brought him in for a reason.
Yep.
And then you're also looking at Logan Thomas, up and coming tight end. Even though
I'm high 30. On him, man. I mean,
we're both.
Yeah,
we're both going to be really high on him.
There might be fisticuffs in our draft in our keeper league this year. I mean,
it could be something where I just keep him after last year.
Yeah,
so
there's that.
That's true. There is that.
but only if you're going to draft Travis Kelce in the second round.
Ah, you son of a... Yeah, you got to bring it up. But you mentioned the backfield as well. And that's something... I mean, you got Antonio Gibson back there and J.D. McKissick. Mm-hmm. Both of those guys can catch it out of the backfield. I mean, McKissick is actually one of the better ones when it comes to receiving running back. So... Great weapons, and he has shown that he can throw it down the field, but he's also okay throwing it in the middle.
Look at that. That's a guy who can throw the ball deep.
Just look at it.
Look at it. Would you look at it?
It gives us hope, Kyle.
Yeah.
What is that, velvet?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. It is.
Here we go. I mean, come on.
Let the big dog eat.
That's right. Let the big dog eat. So yeah. Hey, man. I think it's fully warranted to be that. That's a true sleeper QB. As far as like finding a sleeper QB, it ain't easy.
It is hard.
And that guy, I think right now he is severely undervalued. And that's what a sleeper really truly is. A guy who's severely undervalued. All right, let's move on here. We've got our second QB, second to last one actually. What do you got for me, Justin?
I have Kirk D. Cousins, Minnesota Vikings.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. So ADP is 8th pick in the 13th round, but he's going as the 21st QB off the board. Now, one thing that I look at is I'm looking back at last year's numbers and in our
21st
QB. But he was the 11th best QB in the 2020 power rankings. And the power rankings are something that's, it's Kyle's brainchild here. It's something he's taken a lot of consistency numbers as well as just your average points. But we're looking at a lot of themes combined together. And that's something where he finished as the 11th best QB. And he had 10 startable finishes as well. So that means he finished as a top 12 QB with only 3 bust weeks. So Kyle, what is that again? That's if you finish outside the top 18.
I think on QB
is that
was
correct?
top. I think we settled on top 18. If they were inside the top 18, they weren't a bust. In any particular week.
Gotcha. And this is the one thing I saw that I was really intrigued by was those 3 bust weeks. That's half the amount of bust weeks that #Twommy Tom Brady had.
Yeah,
Tom had 6. So that gives you an idea. Like, Kirk Cousins, he's not gonna flash that much. It's something that it actually pains me to really say this.
He's reliable.
He is reliable. He is out there for almost every game. Like, I think in the last 4 years, he's missed 1 start.
Yeah, so but he's reliable in that he provides startable finishes.
Yep.
I mean, if you get 10 startable finishes across a fantasy season and, it's 16 games, now it's going to be full 16 games probably for a championship. If you're getting 10 or 11 starts out of a dude, that are, he's finishing in that top 12.
Yeah.
That's really phenomenal. So,
and this is one of those things where, we're not big more than one QB on your roster type person. This is probably not something, if you're in a 12-team league, you're probably not holding on to him on your bench or anything like that. But this is some guy that you really want to look at if, sadly, if your starter goes down. This is a guy that's not going to kill you. He can actually help carry you along until something else happens or your injured player comes back. So, but I mean, he's got great weapons around him as long as he can stay upright with that offensive line. But you got Justin Jefferson, who just came out on fire as a rookie. You can only expect him to grow even more. Adam Thielen still got a couple years left in him as long as his back holds up. And then you got another improving tight end, Irv Smith Jr. And then of course you have this some guy named Dalvin Cookie, something like that. Davlin Cook.
No.
So, I mean, I think this is a guy that, like I said, you can store at the end of the bench if you have room. or it's a guy that would be a pretty good pickup, sadly, if one of your starter goes down, man.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 top 6 finishes last year too, so that's solid. So out of those 10 startable finishes that were like truly startable finishes, he still had 30% of them in the top half of that group.
It's going to be really hard to find somebody like that when he's going off of this 21st.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's changed. Like, why would he regress to that extent? Like, what has changed? There's nothing new on contract. There's nothing new in the offense. There's no changes.
Kyle Rudolph is gone.
If anything, like the offense is better than what they anticipated last year, and he was being drafted. He was being drafted earlier than the 21st QB. The passing game was much better. You've got Thielen and you've got Jefferson, who are both solid. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Now we know what Jefferson is. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think you're absolutely correct, and that he's a sleeper. So all right, here, let's move on to tight end. Let's knock these guys out. We've got Blake Jarwin right off the top. Right, this is a guy we were hot on last year. He did get injured, so there is that concern. He had right now he's going as the second tight end, or the second pick of the 23rd round, and he's the 30th tight end off the board. So he's not even being drafted in 2 tight end leagues or 2.5 tight end leagues. He's barely being drafted. So it's pretty thin to think that he's gonna just completely bomb. I think that it's okay. So like, what's the knock really? Why is he being pushed down the board? And it's weird. He's in an offense that just wants to throw the ball a ton. It wants to run. It wants to run a lot of plays. Look, Dalton Schultz, he was Jarwin's backup last year, and Jarwin got injured like 1 play into the season. He tore his ACL, I think it was. And Schultz finished still as the tight end 17 with a backup QB throwing him the ball for nearly the entire season. He still saw 89 targets. A backup tight end saw 89 targets. I mean, Jared Cook was going off the board as a top 12 pick at the tight end position. And I don't think he saw
like 60 targets.
I think he hit 60. That might be, and I think that's like, we kept saying that last year before the season. We're like, the dude never sees more than 40 to 60 targets. That's his range. 60 targets, 40 catches. 60 targets, 40 catches. Like, that's what he does. So
he finished at 60 targets last year.
It's almost like we've looked at the data and we've seen what's going on, and you can predict based on past performance. And so if a backup tight end can get 89 targets and perform as the tight end 17, you have to imagine that the guy that they paid a ton of money to last year, that clearly indicated he is their tight end of the future, that they're going to go right back to him. They're going to give him,
throw him like a 3-year, 21, or
it was like 3 or 4 year deal. And it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. And the dude had like 14 catches or something in his career when they did that. So they're like, this is the guy. Yeah. So look, he's getting a healthy Dak back. He's going to have a healthy ACL. Word is that he is going to be ready day 1 of training camp.
Because it was so early that he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you can expect, in my mind, that Jarwin's going to be a high upside tight end. And you're getting him available at the back of the draft, like absolute back of the draft.
Back.
Now, that obviously with a preseason this year could change, because it could become apparent that why aren't they, like, he might not get a whole lot of game time, and then people might think, oh, it's because he's coming off an ACL, so maybe he's not fully healed. Yeah. That ain't the case. Also, Hard Knocks is on Dallas this year. So
let's hopefully they don't.
Hopefully they don't spotlight him in his comeback.
His name's Blake, so he should be all right.
Yeah, nobody wants to know that, right? No. All right. Let's hit up the last tight end here. What do you got?
Yes, sir. Adam Troutman. Hopefully I said that right, but right now he's going as the 10th pick in the 14th round, another 21st. So Kirk Cousins was the 21st QB. I have the 21st tight end off the board in Adam here. So the biggest thing I'm looking at is he's not really going to be competing against that many tight ends, because they didn't re-sign Jared Cook, who we just mentioned actually, and Josh Hill is not there anymore as well. The one thing you do have to look for is maybe Taysom Hill. Even though they label him as a tight end, he's not really running that many tight end routes. So I don't really think that's any kind of competition that we have to worry about. I think Taysom Hill is still going to be that gadget player. So it's one of those things where we love our second-year tight ends, our second-year wide receivers, because it usually takes a year for these players to figure it out, especially a guy like Adam Troutman here. He came from Dayton. I mean, he played at the University of Dayton. Going from that to the NFL had to be a change for him. And, he didn't put up, ungodly numbers or anything like that. I don't think he even had 20 receptions last year. But I'm looking at the opportunity and everything that's coming out of camp and how much he's improved and how, highly drafted he was as well. So it's something where, with the second-year tight end, because of ADP and expectations being low, which means, he's flying under the radar, and I really think he can surprise people this year. It is dependent on the fact that we do have Jameis Winston throwing him the ball. We've mentioned this a few times in our past episodes that we think it's going to be Jameis Winston at QB on week 1. But, I mean, Adam has the pedigree when it comes to the draft. He has the willingness to stay on the field. They talk about that as well. He's an all-around tight end already, which is something pretty rare, I feel like, in this day and age of football where a guy comes in a tight end and he can actually block as well. So that means he's not leaving the field, everybody. They don't have to just design a play for him.
Now, I just want to say one thing, though. We both believe it'll be Jameis Winston, but the word is right now that Taysom Hill has the early line on starting. And
I just don't see it, man.
I if that happens, I see Sean Payton being on the hot seat pretty damn quick. I don't think it could. I don't think that it's going to end well if he goes that route.
I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Yeah. So, and I think that Jameis, there's risk, but there's a lot of upside with Jameis Winston. You don't necessarily have the extreme accuracy or decision making that you got with Drew Brees, but you get the younger arm that you with a nicer deep ball that you had with Drew Brees.
And a willingness to kind of fit it in some tight windows as well.
Yeah.
So but it's also,
I mean, you can't knock Jameis for having the guts to throw the ball sometimes when other guys wouldn't do it, right?
Right. I mean, and we talk about this as well when we talk about backups.
Yeah.
So Jameis was a backup last year at QB. Well, guess who he throws to in practice?
Yep.
He throws to a backup, and that's what Adam Troutman was last year, was a backup. So you always have that built-in rapport from previous years.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, a 14th round pick that you can grab that guy. I mean, I think we went pretty deep on these tight ends here. So, and you know what? Tight end is a position that you need to mark a lot of guys down as prospects for the future. So even if you go and you draft somebody and you spend a little bit of draft capital and get a guy that you feel more comfortable with, that's fine. But just put a little note down with these guys, right? Just make sure you
Write that down.
Because tight ends are injured all the time. We talk about it each season. Everybody's just like, oh, this is the deepest year tight end I've ever seen. And then week 3, it's like, there's 3 tight ends playing left. Yeah. They're all injured. Yeah. So I think it's very important.
There's not a huge difference between 14 to 20.
We still only advocate drafting 1. These are the positions, QB and tight end, that you only need to draft 1 in most leagues. Now, if you're playing in a tight end premium league, obviously you want to draft more than 1 tight end. If you're playing in a Superflex or 2 QB league, you better be drafting a QB early and another guy later, and you better have 2 on that team. Obviously, in a 2 QB league, you understand that. In Superflex, you better have learned that. I hope you understand that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time. I think we're going to throw in a couple mock drafts for this week. Mock, right?
Mock, yeah.
And we'll check you out on the other side. Thanks for hanging around, guys.
See you guys.